Hello, welcome back to another video on the channel where healing and spiritual growth are front and center. This video shout out goes to someone that goes by James Crew. Thank you for your continued support and for inspiring this video. Alright, because this is we're going to do this in series, y'all. This is how God revealed it to me to do it. Alright, because I've been talking about, when I taken that poll, and many of you are still, struggling with that trauma bond to the individual abuser, but this also applies to trauma bond to other people in general. All right, there's a similar component when we're talking about a trauma bond to a human, okay, to a person, that unhealthy attachment to a person. And as a reminder for many of you in the beginning of the healing process and things like that, that trauma bond is, what you're going to experience a withdrawal. Okay, that's very similar to a drug withdrawal. Many of us have spoken about this elsewhere, and it's available in a lot of articles and things like that talk about that. It's very true, because that's what's happening, is that you are going through that. You're still craving the abuser, because let's face it, it all ties into that grooming, okay, that not only the world did to get us trauma bonded to the world, but that the narcissistic abuser did, how they groomed us to tolerate the abuse. We didn't even realize that's what was happening, and that cloud of cognitive dissonance, aka the confusion, was getting induced to try and turn our world upside down, which is exactly what happened. Okay, and so now God's trying to turn it back around, and so you're going through that. You're going to go through a what I like to call a push-pull, okay, within that brain chemistry, while God is trying to level that back out and regulate it. And y'all hang tight, because it will happen. Yes, God will do what he's got to do as he renews the mind, and it'll regulate that back out to its normal function, okay? It will happen, so hang in there. All right? Many of us can attest to that. Once that cloud of confusion is completely gone, and then you'll be able to sense when others around you are suffering from that, because you'll be able to, like I spoke about in a previous video, where you'll start to sense it, because you don't have that tingling. You don't have it, you're fine, you can see now what's really going on, but then somebody walks by you, and all of a sudden you start to feel that, and you're like, oh, okay, and then you know where it's coming from. It's not you. Okay, spiritual energy transfer. All right, so hang in there. There's some encouragement, inspiration stuff that you got to look forward to. But I want to go ahead, and this is part 2 of breaking trauma bonds. All right, and this can apply to, again, the individual abuser and just that trauma bond to other people in general. All right, so this could be part 2. Okay, we're gonna do this in parts, because again, like I said, there's a lot that goes into it. And I want y'all to be able to I said, to myself, I said, well, if I try to cover all the points in one little video, we don't want to overwhelm you, okay? All right, this is a step-by-step process. And so I'm going to put the link to the video in this video description, to the video where I talk about step 1 for breaking trauma bonds overall, pretty much, okay? About breaking that dependency on external validation, because that really is... It's like once you get past that first step of, for recovery, that first step of accepting that the abuse occurred at the individual level, because eventually you'll get to that point where you have to accept, again, it's happening on the societal level, but that's later on. And many of you are there, so you know what I'm talking about. So you'll get there too. For those who haven't gotten there yet, hang tight, because you will get there too. And what we mean by that, it's like I said in the blog, where I talk about acceptance being the first step in recovery, is that it does not mean that we are excusing the abuse. Absolutely not. In fact, while here exposing the abusive behaviors for a reason. We don't accept it, because abuse is not okay. Y'all, many of y'all have heard me say that a lot for a reason. And I will tell you, because it's so true, abuse of any kind is not okay. But we learn that we have to accept it at a certain level, okay? It's a matter of just accepting the fact that it occurred, or that it is occurring. And we can't control things outside of our control. But what we can do is like, okay, you know what? We turn that pain into purpose. All right, what can we do to help push back against it? Okay, that's the big thing right there. A lot of survivors are out here doing that, and a lot of survivors will end up doing that. Whether some of y'all might not know that yet, but Mark might, yeah, it'll happen. All right, so I'm going to put that in the video description for quicker access, for a refresher for those who may need it, and for those who have not seen that one yet, because I go in detail about, breaking that dependency on external validation. All right. Now, I also have the BTBW magazine, which is Breaking the Trauma Bond to the World. And what that is, Volume 1 is a compilation for those who have missed this, and for those who might need a reminder. That is a compilation of all of the free monthly newsletters, okay, from June of 2021 to December of 2021, with additional insights, okay, because they're each step. So even though it's breaking the trauma bond to the world, okay, part of that, believe it or not, part of that process is breaking the trauma bond to your individual abuser and to other people and to items. Okay, it's a package deal. So there's going to be tips in each of the free monthly newsletters that also can apply, when you use your self-thinking skill, that will also apply to helping you break that trauma bond to the individual abuser and other people as well. Okay, in general. And so you're having that craving, because it's all part of learning how to be okay physically alone. When you accept that with the Godhead, you are not alone. Because, God is the spirit in you. That's why he's with you wherever you go. Absolutely. All right, there you go. For those who needed that reminder. All right, remember, God is not going to put you where he can't protect you, right? There you go. Because there's a spirit in you already protecting you. Everywhere you go, the store, school, work, an event of any kind, God is always with you. All right, there you go. So, let that digest. But that magazine is available right now, PDF download on the website for just $5, okay? And it just has everything that we discussed in those free monthly newsletters, plus some additional insight. And so I highly encourage y'all to take to get that, and just, I'm going to end up laminating a copy for myself as well, because let's face it, even I myself, God reminds me of things too, so you're not alone there, all right? All right? You're not alone there. So I'm going to go take that sucker and get it laminated, and that's going to kind of be a reference point. Like anytime, because during the healing, it does get easier. All right, it does get easier, and you will, because sometimes, hey, it's normal, y'all. Kind of like, you know that saying, falling off the wagon, when you're trying to come off of a particular substance or whatever, and you fall off. Hey, it happened, okay? It happened. Many of us survivors fell for the Hoovers, okay? Many of us did, until we finally realized, till God woke us up and said, wait a minute, that's a trick. That's a bait. All right, so it happened. You're not alone. I want y'all, do not beat yourself up. All right, if you have fallen for a Hoover, or if you've broken no contact 1 or 2 times or whatever, eventually you will get it. All right, eventually you'll get it. Hang tight. Don't beat yourself up. That's what the enemy wants you to do. You are learning. You are growing. You are healing. And it's a process, like we say often. But don't be sitting there beating yourself up. It's okay. All right, and I will go ahead and give y'all, because this is part of breaking that trauma bond, okay? Overcoming the avoidance that it happened. There you go. All right, that's the crust of it right there. And that's what happens to a lot of us survivors. When we first come out and we're sorting through it and we're learning to accept that it happened, and now we're like, okay, and then we start breaking those dependencies on external validation. Okay, we got to start breaking those. That's step number 1, always, to breaking the trauma bond. All right, and then also that avoidance. Okay, overcoming that avoidance that it happened. All right, that's a lot of times what happens to all of us. We go through a season or 2, all right, however long, it's just part of the process. All right, it's avoidance. Okay, and inside that bag is avoidance, okay, of recognizing that anger, of recognizing things so that you can overcome it, okay? Yes, there are a lot of emotion involved as you're trying to break that trauma bond. And, we all did for a long time, rather than face it, okay? Rather than face it head on and deal with it, get it out of the way, all right? And then we're like, okay, and then we're no longer angry. We can more easily forgive, all right, so that God can forgive us, all right, as well. That's how that works. So it takes a little time, though, but it's very, very common for survivors to end up doing that for a period, okay, a season, like I said just a little bit ago, for a season where you go through that period of avoiding it, okay? You just want, because it's natural, okay? It's a natural human thing that, you get out, you realize, you're like, okay, you accept the abuse happened, you're educating yourself, things like that, and during that time, you are avoiding some of the feelings and the emotions that you got to overcome, okay? No, I'm not, no, because the reason we got to do that is if we don't address it and recognize it and address it, then it's just going to sit inside there and boil up and boil up and boil up, which is what the enemy wants, by the way. Remember, the enemy wants that to happen because he knows that if it just sits there and we are ignoring it and avoiding, sitting down with God, okay, sitting down with God and going, okay, doing that inner work and not avoiding things that we got to do for ourselves as well, so that God can continue to do what he's got to do too. I would sit down and we go, okay, I'm experiencing this, and I'll share with you all something. That yes, I had my nights where I was on the bathroom floor, bawling my eyes out, okay? I had my nights too. You're not alone. You got to get it out, all right? You got to get it out. Because if you don't, it's going to sit in there and bottle up and bottle up and bottle up. And eventually it comes to a boiling point and somebody will trigger you and bam, the enemy got you. You'll explode. We don't want to see, that's how the enemy works. All right, so that's why I say, okay, we gotta, and I did, for myself, during that, I got it out, I was talking to God, I was pleading to God, I was like, this has got to stop, and eventually it did, okay, because God heard me, and eventually it did, especially, and I'll go ahead and share, that was during the time that we were doing that investigating with how in the world that ex-psychopath was still tracking me, okay? Because it was a very frustrating period. I cannot deny that. It was very frustrating, but God sent the right people across my path to help us remedy that. And, like I said before, just like a little 3-month period, okay? That was not very long. All right, but for me, yes, it was very frustrating because it was like, you gotta be kidding me, So, because we do it, it's like we're like, seriously, it was bizarre. But, we gotta get that out. Gotta sit down and identify that that's what we're experiencing and get it out, okay? Gotta get it out. And so we overcome avoiding all of that. Because once we can do that, then we're like, okay, all right, you release it out into wherever it gotta go. You release it, you gotta get it out. The same concept applies to that tip that a lot of us offer about, a lot of times you want to say some of the, what's the right word? Blunt, okay, blunt or blatant. Thing to the narc abuser, that you want to say. And the only thing I can tell y'all on that, as to whether or not you send it, that depends on your circumstance, okay? And where you're at in the healing process, okay? Seriously. Because if you've been able to, we've got several warriors who, who are like, you know what, that's it, I want to face this head on, and I want to get this out of the way, and so they were bold and sent it. Like, well, hey, whatever happens, happens, but they were able to get it out, they felt better. That's the whole point right there. That's why we overcome that avoidance, okay? Because that also helps to break the trauma bond to other people and to, the individual abuser, right? That helps, right, by overcoming that. And you get, allow yourself that time, allow yourself that space. Yes. Even if you got to get in your car by yourself and go somewhere like a scenic overlook or a pretty, isolated parking lot or whatever it is, and just get it out, speak it out loud, get it out, whatever. Because remember, when you do that, you're talking to God. God's gonna get you through that, right? So you're also talking to God. And you just gotta get it out. Cry, stomp your feet, whatever it is you gotta do, okay? And I'm not talking about throwing a temper tantrum, y'all. It's a whole different thing, right? When you're going through the healing process to get it out, okay? It's a whole different thing, right? You're not throwing a tantrum. You're just because it does. I know it's so bizarre what they try to do and what they'll do. They'll go to no lengths to try to get their target to, come back to them and to continue playing games and all kinds of things. All right, it's very, very common. Oh yeah. And y'all, seriously, we're gonna cover this a little bit more later, because it's also another way how the narcissistic abuser keep the trauma bond going by keeping you confused. Okay, so there you go. Then how they do that, and this right here, new revelation, everyone. This right here is the just a crazy making thing that they do, but they do it, and this lets us know that there are narcissistic abusers who will read all about narcissism and narcissistic abuse, not just to see if they can learn any new tactics, okay? Seriously, that's a big reason why they do it, all right? Because they want to see if there's any new shenanigan that they can learn to try and pull one over on their new target or whatever target, okay? That's exactly one of the main reasons why they do it. But at the same time, they know that the survivor is going to eventually Google their behaviors. And they know eventually many survivors are going to find Quora and other articles and other things. Yes, they know this. Remember, the enemy knows ahead of time also, because he's repeated it over and over again. So he knows what the victims and survivors are going to do also. He doesn't know when, just like he doesn't know when God is going to wake us up exactly. He might know about a certain time frame, but he doesn't know the exact date. See, God doesn't let him know nothing. God doesn't tell the enemy anything. All right, that's another big part of moving in silence too, y'all. But we'll get more into that later. But I want y'all to know, and then that is also so because they know that the survivor is going to go Googling the behavior. So what they'll do during the devaluing discard phase, is they will often accuse the empath, the victim, the survivor of being the narcissist, of being the narc abuser. Right, they will start throwing those. They'll start throwing those out there, and that is to try and trip up the survivor and get the survivor to actually believe that it's their fault, to believe that they are when they're not. Remember, the enemy is always trying to trick people into believing the lies are true. Same concept with narcissistic abusers when they do this. All right, when they try to project that onto their target, so that the target, after being gone, starts to question whether they are or aren't. Seriously. Alright, so I'm just going to leave that right there for this one. As always, if you have any question, but we're going to dive more into that coming soon, because there's a lot to cover in that one as well. But just remember that part 2 is overcoming that avoidance to help break that trauma bond by learning to deal with what it is you're facing, what you're experiencing, okay? Because it's all perfectly natural to have those as you're starting to heal and going through the process, because that's going to help break the trauma bond, okay? As always, y'all know where to reach me if you have any other questions. For additional information, insight, encouragement, and other good stuff, check out these videos right here. Sending love and light to all fellow warriors. Thank you for watching and for your support. Until next time, show some gratitude to the Heavenly Father, and you keep being you. In Jesus' name, amen.